So welcome to the Dwight Eisenhower Luncheon. Our annual meeting theme this year is agile, adaptive, lethal, transforming at the pace of change. And it's a fitting reminder that our Army is undergoing the most significant transformation in half a century, ensuring that we remain ready, modernized, and the most lethal land force in the world. It's especially appropriate that this event bears the name of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. His legacy is one of visionary leadership as Supreme Allied Commander. He built the coalitions that secured victory in the Second World War. As President, he guided the nation through change and modernization with humility and a steady hand. His example reminds us that transformation is not just about technology and weapons. It's about vision, adaptation, and most importantly, leadership in times of complexity. Today, we're fortunate to have the leaders who embody that same spirit. Our Secretary of the Army and our Chief of Staff of the Army are guiding this institution through continuous transformation, ensuring that we honor our 250-year legacy, support our soldiers, and prepare for the future. Please join me in welcoming the Secretary of the Army, the Chief of Staff of the Army, and the other Army senior leaders that are with us today. There are a number of special guests in attendance today, and we're very honored to have a number of ambassadors, ministers of defense, general officers, and other senior leaders representing many of our friends and allies from around the world as guests of AUSA. All of you, please stand to be recognized. Remains our advantage, our great allies and partners working together. We'd also like to welcome our Army Medal of Honor recipients who will be recognized tomorrow night as our Marshall Award honorees. Lieutenant General Bob Foley, Captain Gary Rose, Lieutenant Brian Thacker, Major John Duffy, and Captain Flo Groberg and Master Sergeant Earl Plumley. Would you guys all please stand? Today, we are honored to be joined by the 41st Chief of Staff of the United States Army, General Randy George, a native of Alden, Iowa, commissioned from the United States Military Academy in 1988 as an infantry officer. He's commanded at every level, from company to corps, and deployed in support of operations Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, and Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Throughout his career, General George has served in key joint and Army staff positions and was a fellow on the Council of Foreign Relations, bringing strategic insight to his leadership. He assumed duties as the 41st Chief of Staff on September 23rd, 2023, and since that time has led the force with purpose and clarity. Under his leadership, the Army has relentlessly pursued the continuous transformation necessary to ensure our soldiers remain the most agile, adaptive, and lethal in a rapidly evolving world. We're fortunate to have the right leader at the right time to guide our Army through this era of change. Please join me in welcoming General Randy George, Chief of Staff of the United States Army.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. First thing I want to do, I'm going to ask our Sec Army to stand up. I'm putting him on the spot right here. We're blessed to have everybody, all the people that I've seen, all the friends. Bob was talking about General Brown was talking about all of our allies and partners, and really tough decision to go on with this AUSA last week. And we're all here because of our secretary. I just want to thank him for his courage and his leadership. I'm used to talking to the pre-command courses and talking to our Army formations. We're really lucky today to have in the same room is really starting with industry. And one of the things that everybody talks about is the pace of change, and we're going to certainly talk about that. But I've been out on the floor and we've been working with industry over this last year, and we do appreciate it. I think you all understand that we have to change. And I guess the one thing that I would say to all of you up front is, Secretary highlighted a bunch of this, help us to be a better customer too, and we're going to talk about that, but we appreciate what you're doing. We need you, each and every one of you that's out there. Next, I know we have some congressional leaders. I could embarrass them and ask them to stand up. Some of those things need to change as well. The Secretary talked about that yesterday with what we need to do. The Army is going to do budget line item consolidation. I'll talk about that and how we buy things. We want the taxpayer to get the best value. We want the best thing for our warfighter. We look at this budget like it's our own personal budget. We want the oversight, and we appreciate that. And then the third crowd that's here, we got a whole bunch of our leaders, not as many as I would like, but I want to invite the three soldiers up here from the 101st that came up here. If you haven't been yet down to the Transforming in Contact, come on up here, guys. Sergeant Steele, Sergeant Cochran, and Chief Fraser, they're here. There's really not a meeting that goes by when we're in the Pentagon and we are not saying everything that we do, we have to think about the guys that are right down here in the foxhole. And I've been thinking about this. I enlisted in the Army out of high school into the Army. This is our customer. This is our ultimate customer, and there's a lot of reasons, a lot of times not to do hard things at our level. But we always think about these. So we didn't have best squad this year. We've got a lot of best squads all over the Army, and these are some of the best soldiers that we have. So a big round of applause for our troopers. They've also been helping us figure out how we can make 15 X-rays. Okay, this is going to be a little bit different this year. Obviously, not standing behind the podium. So I want everybody to see that there's a QR code up there. Scan it in. If you have questions, I'm going to talk for a little while, tell you guys what we're doing across the Army, and then we look forward to whatever questions you have, and we'll do our best to answer them. The Secretary got a lot to this yesterday on the why, that this is a dangerous world, and we're really seeing unparalleled enemy collaboration. I think that the other thing that we are seeing that we haven't seen in, I think, since before World War II is just how rapidly tech is changing. And we talk a lot about when we built the Army and a lot of the systems that we have, you could take 5 to 7 years to build it, and you could take 15 or 20 years to field it to your formation. We can't do that anymore. We do not talk about Army 2030. We talk about continuous transformation because 2030 was all based on palm cycles. It was all based on how we could do things over time, and we are going to have to move much quicker than that. The other thing that's important, I think everybody's in here as part of the Army family, is just how important the Army is to the Joint Force. And I've seen that out there. No one has the headquarters that we have. No one has the troops that we have. But we are building this Army and transforming our Army so that we have the long-range fires, the command and control, the integrated air and missile defense, and the sustainment for the Joint Force. One of the things that we will continue to need in our Joint Force is maneuver, and that's one of the things that I think oftentimes people don't talk about. But people live on land, and that sounds very trite, but we are going to need to have formations that can get out on land and support all those other formations that we're talking about and can do the things that we need to do for the Joint Force. Transforming is important not just for the fighting force. A perfect example is what we had with 2101 that responded to the emergency after the hurricane down in Nashville. We had a new formation that was 2nd Brigade 101st. It was our first transforming in contact formation. That was a formation that could actually go in places that a regular infantry brigade combat team could not, where they could not go because of the new vehicles they had. They could sense and they could help their communities. So a lot of this transformation is also going to help what we're doing for our homeland defense missions and for defense for civil support. Okay, I'm going to talk you through. I'm going to cover very quickly. I know there's been a lot of smaller sessions that are happening throughout this forum over the yesterday and today, and then continue tomorrow. But I want to talk to you about the 4 focus areas because that's where we have aligned how we are moving forward in the Army. First, we want to be very clear that warfighting is our #1 focus, and we talk about that all the time across every warfighting function. What are we going to do to make sure that our formations are more lethal and more ready for high-end combat, and that is our focus. So we have been upgunning our combat training centers. That is one thing that we are working on to make sure that the OP4 that's out at the CTC is 6 months or so ahead of all the rest of our formations. We still want that to be a crucible. And for many of you who have been out here, been to CTCs, probably would say a miserable experience. But we want that to be a learning experience for everybody that's there. We also have to work at home station. We have to get training. We're going to have to be able to train drones, shoot down drones, do EW at all of our home stations. That's something that we're going to continue to work on, and we're going to work from the bottom up and the top down. 350-1 is the Army manual that we always talk about that tells our formations what tasks they have to be good at. Last spring we put out that we were going to focus on warrior tasks, weapons qual, driver's qual, medical, basic tasks, and that was it. And I think there was 12 other tasks. Thankfully, the Secretary of War did just put out in some of those policies, many of those other tasks are going to come away to make sure that we are focused on warfighting. I think the Vice and the Under have been leading the charge on H2F. Fitness is obviously foundational. Regardless of the tech, we are going to have amazingly fit soldiers to endure the rigors that we are going to see on the modern battlefield, and we are going to scale health and holistic fitness across our formation. The big thing I want to talk about on this, on warfighting, is next-gen command and control. So 2 years ago, I stood up here and said that our number one priority was making sure that we could fix the network. And I think there's a lot, I'm looking around, there's a lot of what I would call mature leaders that are out here in the audience with me that know what it's been like to actually try to put together, where you actually spent hours, days, and maybe sometimes a week to put together a network and make things work. I think what's behind this, I'm going to have them posted up here. We are getting ready. This is about soldiers and leaders going from their desktop to their combat vehicle to their foxhole, and everything is on here. AUSA is a perfect example of something. It served us well for many years. Now artillery execution suite is on here as an app. Why is that important? That was 2 vehicles, many radios, extra people. It's now on here as an application and can do all the things that we need it to do. So this is where the network is going. 4th Infantry Division, Pat Ellis, where are you at? All right, stand up. Oh, there he is. He is standing up. All right. So anybody's got any questions? So Pat Ellis and Joe Welch. I don't know if Joe Welch is in here. We got our best and our brightest that are working on this to make sure that we continue to drive this. Our goal is to have this across our entire Army in 30 months. 30 months. And the Secretary and I had hung out with a bunch of techies on the West Coast, and the old goal was somebody tells you this is how long you can take, cut it in half. So we're constantly cutting it in half, but that's an area that we're going to have to move out of. Our second focus area is about delivering ready combat formations, and I think we're getting ready next to go talk about soldier and family experience, and there's a lot in that we need that we are continuing to focus on to make sure that our soldiers and families are taken care of. I'm going to mention just a couple of things. One of the other big focus areas that we talk about was getting rid of things in our formation that we know we don't need. Chris Mohan, I know he's in here with Army Material Command. We have gotten rid of more than 1 million pieces of equipment in our Army and turned it in and taken it off our property books. What does that mean? That means less time counting stuff, less time laying it out, and less money you're spending trying to fix those things. Army Material Command also came up with a new application called Paraline, which is an AI-enabled on-your-phone ability to do property accountability. And what we've already seen, and we're looking to scale that as rapidly as possible, 80% reduction in property accountability times for company commanders. So company commanders and first sergeants aren't counting the equipment, they're on the rifle range and they're training with their troops, and that we know that's critical. Campus-style dining, Secretary mentioned this yesterday. It's amazing to me that we buy more chicken than anybody else and we pay double the price. So we have got to fix how we feed our soldiers. Again, that's something that Army Material Command is working very hard on. We have 5 places that this is going to happen here very shortly, and that's another thing, and we need everybody's help, we need Congress's help to make sure that we can continue to scale that across our Army. I think Master Sergeant Huff here. I'm going to give an example and give a shout out for the software factory. Where are you at, Master Sergeant? You in here? It's right back here. So we got a bunch, when people talk about innovators, I often look right at our troops. There's some of the most amazing innovators, and they're right inside of our formation. Master Sergeant Huff and team wrote the My Army Post app. It's been deployed now to 60 different installations across our Army, and they were the ones that developed that. And this is commanders, command sergeant majors are the ones that are actually deciding what's best for their installation, and they're updating it. We're also working very hard on 3D printing, figuring out, again, that's something that Army Material Command is leading. One of the things that I want to talk about, and I think is a big thing with 3D printing, is cost and how we're developing these drones. So this came, 101st brought their drone. That was something that was produced there. Army Material Command is making this. So there's a kit, 3 drones, goggles, and the controller for $6,000 that we're doing. So we've been working this called Sky Foundry that we could do at Red River, Tobyhanna, and Rock Island to make sure that we can scale production, that we can work with industry. I've been down on the floor, and I know there's things that we can help produce at scale that can help industry and look for a public-private partnership. But cost curve is where it's at. This is a hardened drone that has been flown successfully in Ukraine. So that's the other thing, is making sure that that our drones are exactly what we need. There's a lot of industry in here, so I know everybody will focus on what we're doing for transformation, and we appreciate that. On the continuous transformation, one of the things that we want to reiterate is we want you inside of our formations. And this goes beyond soldier touch points. We want you inside of our formations, and we talk a lot about having engineers out with us. We want you to see the problems that we're trying to solve, what our soldiers are trying to solve. Put your equipment in with our soldiers, and we will tell you if it works. And if anybody has been out there, they know as a customer, they are quick to give feedback and tell you what works, and they will tell you what doesn't work, and they will tell you how to make that better, and we want to continue to do that. We are making investments in long-range fires. We put out about 9 months ago, we made a decision to put 2 HIMARS batteries out in the Pacific, so 25th ID, just like we've changed the mobile brigades, that DIVARDI has changed. And in 9 months, we have added the 2 HIMARS batteries, trained 13 Bravos to be 13 Mikes, so we've retrained people that are out in those formations. And they are also building a multi-domain effects battalion at the division level so they can see and sense further. We're doing things like putting prototypes out in formations. We had LTAMs as a radar, a much better radar. That radar actually, we spent a lot of money on that prototype, and it's actually out in the formations right now in Indo-PACOM, and we are making that better. I think there's going to be an announcement tomorrow on integrated battle command system for maneuver on counter-UAS. All of our systems have to come together, and we are very focused, and again, that's part of the network that you will find out about tomorrow. On counter-UAS, the Secretary mentioned GIATA 401, and I don't know if Brigadier General Matt Ross is in here, but we are leading that effort and asked to lead that effort for the Department of War and for the interagency, and we know we have the right expertise to do that. So a lot of this is about making sure that we're defending ports, airports, airfields, and we are also working on flytrap, and that has been, U.S. Army Europe has been leading that effort. I'm going to show you one example here. This is the Sika. This thing here will fly about 200 miles an hour, take out other drones. It's effective against the most prevalent and most dangerous drones that are out there, Group 3 and below, and can produce this for less than $1,000. And again, cost curve is very, very critical for us as we're looking at our budget. We've talked, and a lot of industry has been out here part of our transformation and contact to move to our mobile brigades. We have 5 brigades that have so far that we have transformed. Over the next 2 years, we're looking to expand that to 25 more. So we are going to move rapidly with that. We have next generation squad weapon. I want to talk about some of the systems that we have here. And I was just down, and this is the SIG. And what's, again, amazing about these systems that we have and companies that are a part of it, the weapons that are going to come off for our brigades that are moving forward are going to adapt, and they're going to change. And those changes are based on our soldier feedback, and our soldiers love these systems. The other big thing that they really like is the infantry squad vehicle. One of the things that's great about these formations is we have a lot fewer vehicles. I think we had more than 1,500 vehicles in an infantry brigade combat team. There's an ISB over there. We didn't ask for an improved engine. We didn't ask for an improved transmission, but because the Chevy Colorado was being updated, we got them much better as they roll off. We're getting better vehicles as well, and that's exactly what we want. Every one of these formations will have way more drones. Drones are going to be like the Claymore used to be. Everybody is going to have to figure out how to operate a drone inside their formation. Everybody is going to need a drone to protect, detect, or attack inside their formation, and we need to make sure that we're fielding that. Same with electronic warfare and counter-UAS. Again, the TIC model is working for us, transforming in contact, and I think the most important thing is continuous transformation for us, for the Army, and you heard it from the Secretary yesterday, it's a mindset, and we are ready to continuously transform. The foundation of all of that is the 4th focus area, and that's strengthening the profession. And the Sergeant Major and the senior, our senior enlisted leaders have been working on 670-1. That just came out, and we'll look to continue to update that. We have the Harding Project. We talked a little bit about that last year. We want our soldiers and leaders writing about their profession. It's up by 400% is authorship that's out there. And again, I think we're going to get the best ideas from inside of our formation. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, this is Field Manual 1, and again, we're trying to put things out. This is, I think, a great, it's 60 to 70 pages here. It was meant for brand new NCOs and lieutenants, and I'm confident that anybody reads it. We have some extra copies up here if anybody wants it. Probably the most important aspect of strengthening our profession is how we're training our people. And we get really focused on the kit, And one of the things that, and what we all realize as leaders in the Army is that the most important aspect is how are we changing our training so that our people are ready to operate this kit. We just did what was called the Mobile Advanced Readiness Team. This was out at 25th ID. I'm going to talk about a little bit, we're here in a few minutes. But the whole idea of what used to be TRADOC and embedding that out in our formations so that we can update our training on a more rapid basis and using modern technology to do that is where we're headed to make sure that we can maintain our people skills. Again, these things are changing in weeks and months, and you can't wait 3 years to go to school or 4 or 5 years to go to a brick and mortar school, and so we're advancing. I'm going to go through 3 other things here real quick before I take questions. People talk a lot about lessons learned and what lessons have you learned, and we always say that in the Army that we have to, if it's a lesson learned, then we've changed how we're organized, we've changed how we buy things, and we've changed how we train and operate. If it doesn't change something in there, then it's probably not a lesson that we want to absorb. So on changing how we're organized, one of the things that really hit me, again, when we were out on the West Coast, was hearing from industry leaders that said there's going to be 2 types of companies by 2030. So they use 2030. They said there's going to be 2 types of companies. Those that are AI enabled and those that are out of business. And that was what they said. And that really hit home because we know we need to be AI enabled and why we're focused on the network. The Vice and the Under talked this morning about what we're doing also with the business systems. We had, I think, 350 business systems, many of them antiquated, and we are looking to collapse them and move that again so that you can go from your desktop to your combat vehicle to your foxhole and have everything that you have in there with the systems. DTMS, I don't know if anybody, I know everybody that's in this uniform is a perfect example of something. It's crappy. It's terrible. We have to have systems that our soldiers will actually use, that actually enables them, and that's what we're focused on, making sure we're fixing. What it also does for us is, we started by saying that we were going to downsize our own HQDA by 1,000 people, is that you become much more efficient with your headquarters instead of passing all the people product around. I have been able in my own office to look at a smart board and make decisions, not ask for info papers, and understand what's happening inside of our formation. So we need less people to do that. We're cutting GO positions across our Army, and we're combining commands. We just, over the last week, and I'm going to ask General Hodney and Sergeant Major Harris to stand up. This is one of our new transformation training command by combining Army Futures and combining TRADOC, the best of both of those, so that we are doing force design, force development, and force generation, and it's all under one headquarters where it needs to be. So we're very looking forward to what they're going to do for our formation. The next that is Western Hemisphere Command. I'm going to ask Drew Pappas to stand up because he's kind of leading the charge here on what we're getting ready to do. So you should expect in the next, and talking to Mobar about the next 6 to 8 weeks, we are looking to do the same thing with Western Hemisphere's Command, where we will actually have down at Fort Bragg will be that 4-star headquarters that is responsible for the Western Hemisphere, and Army North and Army South will merge into that headquarters as well to make sure that we are condensing headquarters. And again, it's not just the condensing of the headquarters. We want to make sure that we have our warfighters that are out in our combat formations. I mean, we should not be. Our Army has gotten smaller and we have grown headquarters. I mean, so we have to reduce the headquarters, and I think we can become more efficient. I won't go into a lot of detail, but we're also restructuring aviation, and I'm happy to take any questions on that. One of the things that we really want to get moving on and doing it quickly is the MV-75. I don't know if we have a picture of that we can put up. We had originally talked about this is an aircraft that can go 350 miles an hour and 350 miles. So it's something that we need inside of our formation. It's going to give us the kind of reach that we need in every theater, certainly in Indo-PACOM. I think we originally were told this was going to take 5 or 6 years, and we're going to have one of those flying in our formation this next year. And I know we can move quick, and we appreciate what you're doing to make sure that we're moving that. The next is changing how we buy things. I will tell you there's not, and I've done this down on the floor, I always ask how much things cost. And I think everybody in here generally does that. I think we've gotten in habit of not asking that question. Everything I look at, everything that we do, we always ask how much it costs. Because it's important to us to make sure that we are spending our budget. We kind of looked at this as a family budget. This is our family budget. How are we spending all of our money? So that's where it starts, and we're trying to make sure leaders are trained to do that as well. Changing how we buy things also means budget line item consolidation so that we are spending on drones, that we have a wide assortment, or loitering munitions or counter UAS. That's what we've asked for so far. As the Secretary said yesterday, that's less than 1% of our budget. I know we need to expand beyond that and make sure that we are buying capabilities and we are just not buying programs. Everything that we're going to ask for, that we're going to buy, has to be modular open system architecture. If it doesn't fit inside of our formation, if it's not modular, it can't be updated. We don't want to buy something that, as technology changes year to year, that we cannot update. And no one else would do that. That you wouldn't buy something personally that you couldn't update and make change. And then we're looking for less expensive options. We're getting ready to do a test fire on a long-range missile that is about 1/10 of the price that we have been spending it. So cost curve means a lot to us. It's the same thing when it comes to counter UAS. We can't spend $140,000, $150,000 or more on a missile to shoot down a $2,000 or $3,000 drone. We can't do that, and we got to make sure we're looking to different options. The other thing that we are looking for, and I'm going to use the new M1E3 that we are going to see inside of our formations, a platoon of them next year, is commercialization. Will we get the best? And it's a little bit about what we got from the ISV. But on this one, General Dynamics is leading this with the armor and the hull. We have Caterpillar that's making the engine, SAPA that's making the transmission, and then Anduril and Applied Intuition are doing the autonomy. And because they're all coming together, we are going to have a tank that is much more lethal on the battlefield for half the weight, and something that is modular open system architecture that we can continue to adapt, like active protection and all the things that we know we need. That's how we have to buy things, and that's how we're going to have to move forward. The Secretary hit right to repair yesterday, and I remember, I think you could have every one of our senior leaders in here could tell you a story about something they couldn't repair inside of their formation. So it's up to us to make sure that we're writing contracts that we're doing that. I remember not being able to weld or fix strikers when I know I needed to fix it, and we have to have the ability to make sure that we're doing that. And the other question that I always ask is, do we need field service reps inside of our formation? This is different than what we've had with the GWAT. Everything that we're going to field to our soldiers, they should be able to repair it quickly and do that and make sure they have the parts. On that note, we are working with Meta. What do you think? Pretty good. My wife doesn't like it. So So we're working with Meta. These are Meta glasses, and I don't know if they can show you a photo or a video where our soldiers are actually out at JDLM, and right now it's telemaintenance. So they are able to do, as an example, talk to their supervisor over these goggles or these glasses and make sure that they're fixing things. And what we're working towards with Meta is making sure that we do AI-enabled maintenance. That this will allow us to do this as well. And again, taking advantage of what's happening out in the commercial industry. We're doing the same thing with next-gen constructive. And an example, if you were going to set up a warfighter for our formations, it would take a lot of time. It would take 700 to 1,500 people to set up this a warfighting exercise, which is obviously a lot of money and bringing everybody in. We partnered with, we've signed a contract with Battle Roads, which is a gaming company in Palantir, to actually build next-gen constructive that everybody is going to be able to do iterations on their warfighting tasks very rapidly. And we will actually have that will, with the 3rd Corps Warfighter that's coming up in March, we will roll that out. Part of this is actually going to also be on next-gen constructive so that we can rapidly iterate when we're in those environments as well. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Lots going on. I appreciate everybody being here, and I'm ready to take whatever questions you have. Or I'm ready to exit the stage left. Okay, so how is the Army developing leaders who can command both people and technology? So, and this is something we've been talking a lot about with General Hodney and Sergeant Major Harris. For one of the things that we had 50 leaders that we brought them in this year for the Solarian, 50 battalion commanders. That's actually the biggest commanders and command sergeant majors that are down there. One of the things that we're talking about, how do we train our people? How do we find the right leader? What I've first been amazed by is all of our leaders at every echelon, I will tell you, understand technology. They're much more adaptive with it in what we're doing. And the real question is what level of expertise do you really need to have inside your formation? So we have added some chief technology officers. That's something that we're doing. We're looking at how we would add more systems analysis and data engineers inside of our formations. We have done that a little bit with the mobile brigades already. Okay, next question. What have you learned from the rapid fielding of commercial tech during transformation in contact? I think the biggest thing that what we have learned is it's very quick to actually determine what works and what doesn't. I think that's the biggest thing that we're learning if you put it inside of a formation. We've talked a lot about soldier touch points. It's one thing to actually have a soldier come into a sterile environment and test something. It's completely different if you actually put it out in a formation. A good example was what we saw at JPMRC. We had drones that worked well down at JRTC, and when it was 25 degrees and then got up to around freezing and started raining and sleeting, those drones didn't work as well, and battery life was different. We're learning the same lessons in the Pacific when it comes to high humidity. And then obviously all this things that don't work, we're running a rotation with the Arctic Angels out of the 11th Airborne in February. I don't know how many people in here have been outside when it's 40 below zero, but there's a lot of shit that doesn't work when it's 40 below. But we're actually testing that too to make sure what's going to work in those kinds of environments. So I think it just depends on what environment we do. All right, I'll do one more question. Will the current M1A2 tank be enhanced with artificial intelligence upgrades, or will they become obsolete? Okay, should probably have Alex come up here and start answering that question. First, on the M1E3 that's what we're looking at with the M1E3 and why we're trying to move so quick. And I'm excited for folks to see it. Once we can get one, I think we're going to have one actually produced shortly. It's actually like getting in an F1 Formula car cockpit, and that's what we're looking to do that. And everything that we're talking about right now with Next Gen C2, we know we need it to be backwards compatible, but I think we're going to have to advance these systems, the ones that, and buy these new systems before we get the fully AI-enabled things with it. Okay, I appreciate everybody again being here. I appreciate the secretary getting this all assembled. As he said yesterday, I think the biggest risk that we have for everybody in here, I think the biggest risk for industry is not changing. I mean, we are going to change. The Army is going to transform. We are going to move out with this. We want you to come with us on this, and we need you. Our soldiers are ready to change, and I think everybody understands what kind of world we're in. We have to change. Great to see everybody. Thank you for being here.